So for most people throughout history, they have lived under a government that falls under these two categories. Either everyone is under a king or a dictator, or everyone is ruled by a few. That's what oligarchy means. The rule of a few people. A junta is basically a council or a military tribunal that rules the people. And of course, you know, a king would be a monarch. A king or a queen would be a monarch. And then Germany in the time of World War II under Hitler, Hitler would have been the dictator. Anarchy is basically nobody rules. You've heard the term, you know, if there's no order, if there's no structure, then anarchy will reign. That just simply means there's nobody who rules, and it's just kind of a free-for-all. You and I live under a structure of government where everybody, in theory, somebody have a question? Okay. Everybody in theory is the government, the rule of the people. We would call that democracy. And two of the types of democracy are a direct democracy and a representative democracy. The United States would be which one of these two?
Representative.
Representative, that's right. Representative. So we are very, very fortunate as Americans to live in a society where the government structure is a government by the people, of the people, and for the people. That was from Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. So we are very, very fortunate. We have a situation, or we have a situation that is foreign to so many people. So I believe this should be a motivation for each of us to be responsible citizens. Again, that doesn't mean we all have to run for office and become, you know, super political, although some of you might. You might run for office, be involved in the political process, and that would be great. But we do need to see that we have been given a great privilege that was paid for by our founding fathers and founding mothers, Americans, people who came over, established our country, separated from England. You know, the writers who signed the Declaration of Independence, they knew that they would be, that by signing that document, there would be a bullseye put on them by the King of England. That's why go home this weekend, look at a copy of the Declaration. Well, here, I got a copy right here. It's kind of small, but you'll notice the signatures, most of them are very small. Now, the famous one we always know is John Hancock, right? And it's become kind of an American saying, to write your name is to write your John Hancock. He wrote it very big. The reason most of them wrote it very small was so it would be hard to read. The King of England wouldn't, you know, he'd have a hard time figuring out who it was. But John Hancock was like, I am going to write big and bold and clearly, because that's how much he believed in our breaking away from, and that's what the Declaration of Independence was. It was declaring that we are breaking away from a country where the king doesn't care about us. The king continually taxes us without our input, our assent. The king is bringing British soldiers onto our soil and moving them into our towns like Boston and New York. And we don't like seeing standing armies in our country. And we don't like being taxed for our sugar and our stamps and all these things. He has become a tyrant. And we are breaking away from him. And we are declaring to the world, we are now an independent nation. And we believe in the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, these men, and if you want to know what happened to them, if they did get caught, go and watch the movie National Treasure. And if you've seen it, you'll remember the part where Nicolas Cage talked about where he was trying to steal the Declaration of Independence. And he was in this little banquet room and they were having a toast. And he said, "Here's to the men who signed this declaration, who if they got caught, they would be quartered," which I think means they would be emboweled. Ouch. And then those body parts would be burned and something else. I mean, it was a stiff penalty. So I believe because of their sacrifice, and then our men and women who have served our country in government and in the military throughout these 243 years, we owe it to them to be responsible citizens. And that means to exercise our right to vote. The first section in the textbook talks about learning how to think politically. And it simply means that you use your brain. We use our brains to think critical, to examine information so that we can make an informed decision. We can make informed political decisions. So, anybody 18 yet in either class? Okay, so, and some of you be 18 before 2020?
Next week.
All right, so you'll be eligible to vote in the 2020 presidential election. And so, how do you prepare yourself for that? You listen to the candidates, you listen to their ideas, you try to find good sources, because our textbook mentions on page 3, you can tell I'm a preacher, right? Verse 3. On page 3, it talks about fake news. We hear that a lot in the media today. President Trump talks about fake news a lot. We've got to learn how to sift through all of the voices and try to find facts and then use our reason to judge. Now, of course, our own belief systems are going to affect how we vote. So being a good, responsible citizen means you engage in political thinking. Now, a guy by the name of John Stuart Mill, let me show you his good-looking mug. Although I don't think he's as ruggedly handsome as I am. There he is. I don't know though. He's kind of got that Larry from the Three Stooges hair.
A little bit.
Anyway, he was a a political philosopher from England, and his view on liberty and free speech was very influential to our founders. He believed that governments should protect the rights of the individual, that the individual has liberty to be free. Now, I think it should say to believe as he or she wishes, and in some sense to do, because we know that you can't do certain things. You can't harm others. If you do, then the government is going to punish you. So John Stuart Mill said, a government, such as a democracy, should promote individuals and their rights, their freedoms. But then here's the flip side of it. You and I do have that privilege here in America. We are free, but what it provides for us is only the opportunity to be active in politics, to be active in our government. No one can force us to be active. And so, do you realize that I think it was in the last election, and we'll be done here for the day, in the last election, well, let me go back a few years before that, because I think we had a bigger voter turnout, Hillary versus Trump. But before that, we were having only around 40% of registered voters exercising their right to vote. So think about that. 40% of the country, and that is not everybody, but just those who were 18 and older, were basically deciding the leaders of our whole country. So we are fortunate to live in this country where we are free to exercise our choices in the choosing of our leaders, but we are not forced to do that. We have to choose to do that. So finish the rest of chapter 1 and try to get into chapter 2 for next Monday. I will also put all the slides that I show you. I will also post them on the course page along with the videos. And then I'll have your next assignment up by tonight that you can start working on. So any questions?
No, sir.
Well, all right. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday.
See you Monday.
Bye-bye.